everything they did, but they were saying something relevant to me, why the fuck would I give a damn? So again, if you're going to make this critique, you might as well just say, I hate your videos. Okay, because obviously you have no appreciation for the content if you're worried about the background images. I mean, if you're worried about the background images, you haven't even paid any attention to the content. Because the content is about the fact that there are very few, the things that matter in the world, there's a short list, and they matter a lot. And all this other crap doesn't make any difference. It's all bullshit. And here you are coming on my video telling me somehow bullshit matters, and the stuff that's vitally important, the truth of what existence is, you're saying is somehow controlled by peripheral nonsense. And you're going to let it control you. And you're going to say that you have some respect for my video content? No, you obviously have no respect for it.
So we're stuck here more on top of the pile. So we're on top of this pile of corpses, on top of this pile of negative pain and suffering. We've sort of inherited, a benefit at this huge price. And what's our obligation? Is it our obligation to count those past crimes, or is it our obligation to see only the future as being meaningful? I suppose I would argue that rationally, yeah, you can't clean up the past, and if there's some way for you to reform, to conform the broken machine into a working machine, that it would be okay. So I guess the analogy would be, let's say the car was working really badly for 10 years, and it consumed much more than it ever produced in terms of work. And so it was a huge loss in that it cost you a ton of money to keep maintaining it or something, blah, 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 blah. But now you've actually fixed it. There'd be no point in saying, I'm still going to throw it away.
Simple, really, right? No intelligent design, replication for the sake of replication, gladiator war. Those things are getting you right to zero-sum failure. But obviously this little last bit gets a little more complicated, this whole psychology crap. And so anyway, on value, what's being proposed is there is an absolute value. And that the first cause of value is in the sentient creature. So in having a sentient experience, I create value, moment to moment. Every sentient life form on Earth is creating value in having experience. Every minute, every millisecond, they're having sentient experience. They're either in a good state or a bad state. You can put them in one of those two categories. And yes, there's lots of states that are right down the line and all that stuff, but that's not really what we're talking about. But they can be established that something is, their welfare is satisfactory or unsatisfactory. It's obviously this is the most important subject in the universe. Figuring out the gameplay, figuring out if our losses are worth our gains, figuring out whether it's a game worth playing. It's just, you can't get more important than this kind of stuff. We have, through time, figured out some things to be preposterously unprofitable, in a sense that the gain wasn't worth the pain, like slavery and subjugation of different varieties, women even. The quality of their lives so substantially suppressed and diminished. These determinations of child labor, we figured out that this is not worth it. And I've talked about context, but talking about the context of your reaction is a different context than the context of what's happening to something. So these are, again, just totally different things. And the fact that you could find a mechanism or an excuse to make the Holocaust go away by just saying, oh yeah, Jews do suck. Yeah, you're right, Jews suck. It would be better if all the Jews were dead. And so then all of a sudden you can just make the Holocaust go away because you nullify what you just say Jews suck. And so therefore you can just say the Holocaust didn't matter now because it's some sucky Jews that died. So who cares? I mean, yeah, you can do that, but is it the truth? Is it anywhere near honest? Have you applied the honest context, or is it a dishonest context? So if you want to talk about manipulating your mind for some personal goal, fine. But if you're going to talk about manipulating your perspective to make the wrongs of the world's rights in the world, then I'm going to call foul. If all of a sudden you're going to eradicate your guilt, right, by playing little mind tricks, little mind games, making excuses. Religion is psychotic all over the fucking place. And you people are defending it? You're defending it as non-destructive to brain function, completely corrosive to gray matter? I mean, it is the most destructive thing that's ever happened to the human race. And why? Because it's basically mad cow disease. It turns human beings into idiots. And you fuckers, you fucking atheists can't say that? You think there's some religion that's harmless? That brain destruction is harmless? That it's good to have fucking idiots walking around in the street who think God's coming to the rescue? Global warming, global swarming. God will fix it. That they've dealt with any social issue in a rational way because of this stupid religious shit? You think we'd have a right to die? We'd have responsible child production? There'd be a completely different world if it wasn't for the perverted of religion controlling our policy. And you excuses. And so she makes this argument that somehow there's no damage here. No social cost. It's just such a joke. Obviously, my point in my video was that if we didn't waste all these resources on sports, we could apply them to science. We could apply them to contests that would produce huge social benefit. Contests like, $1 billion reward for coming up with a technology that sinks carbon. And we could fix the global carbon crisis. Things like that. Initiatives that could create huge social benefit where we could apply these resources that you're applying to this crap that you're putting in the shit vending machine. You think there's an unlimited number of quarters and that all the machines are going to get quarters. No. When you spend your quarter at the silly sport vending machine, it means there won't be a quarter put in the science machine. And then when you just go by the negative incentives, mental disorders are conditioned disorders, where people's subconscious has associated things and created in them connections. You could say that most compulsive disorders are basically superstitions taken way out of control. They gain a notion of equity or fairness, and their brain thinks that, if I turn the switch off 20 times, I can make a deal with the universe that something won't happen to me. And it's a delusion. It's not a physical part of their brain that's broken, although it can create physical changes in their brain because it becomes an obsession. And so the obsession will be visible, but the obsession didn't cause the disease. The obsession wasn't caused by the brain. The obsession was caused by circumstances of conditioning, maturation, and these associations that take place. Keywords. I'm big on this keyword thing. Reduce everything to the smallest number of words possible. And as rich in information as possible, so everything can be compiled and categorized and ranked, and then we all have an incentive to improve our rank, improve the quality of our status within this arguing community before we get to the dome. And then the dome would be we'd have a Supreme Court of judges, 9, 15, whatever the number would be, and those judges would in turn be judged by another group of judges of, say, 60 or 70 or 100 people on the quality of their judgment. And so everybody would be accountable to some other system that was going to judge whether they were doing what they were supposed to do. And the only thing they could be judged on is whether they played by the rules, the guidelines of what they're supposed to do.
To be terribly, very comforting. I would find it very comforting if I could negate the significance of suffering, especially the future suffering that's going to exist because everybody's gardening or playing sports or watching TV or playing video games, and nobody's panicking about the suffering that's going to happen tomorrow because nobody's doing anything about it. And that's sort of my point, is that, theoretically, we probably should be panicking. We probably should be disturbed. We should be irritated. And so when people are talking about how to, reinforce your positive will, I'm like, okay, that's really nice for you personally, but what does it do for the world if everybody positive thinks themselves into negation of existence of the Holocaust and global warming and reckless reproduction and corporations that'll kill you in insidious ways. None of that's going to get taken care of. And then so he's making this distinction that somehow will is a distinctly different thing, and he's thinking all programming. The word program that just means what you were born with. That's not something you acquire through conditioning and education. But yes, every word you know is a program. Every idea you have is a program. They're all the product of programming. They're all fed. They're all fertilized. You don't become a juggler automatically. You don't just will yourself to be a juggler. No, you have to go through the programming ritual. You have to program yourself to be a juggler. Everything you become, you are programmed to be. There's no extra something over here you call will, okay, that's not made of program. That's not made of, first I have to have the idea, I got to get educated, and then I have to mix the education together and come to the conclusion that this is the most efficient road, and then I have the idea that this is the most efficient road. And now that I have that idea, that is my will. It didn't come from nowhere, it came from somewhere. But we're still horribly vulnerable because the population controlling the means of the young is a population of the crudest of baboons. The population controlling the mass media and the pop culture and the breeders are not the best of the meme players, but they're the worst of the meme players. They're the most illogical, the most undisciplined by principles of knowledge, the most illiterate on the subjects of chemistry and physics and biology. And that is the new threat, is that you control the maturation, you'll in many ways control the function. That's not good. You are in a situation where you're not speeding to a fire. You're not doing something urgently necessary. You're doing something like, I want to get my nails painted. You're doing something trivial and frivolous. You're doing something to satisfy a delusion in your perception. Not something you can rationally explain to exist. Like rock. Rock is sad. Rock wants friends. Okay, I move rock over to rock. Now rock has friends. Good. I did a good thing. You don't have that. There's no friend to move the earth to. There's no crying earth. There's no sympathetic earth. None of that exists. There's no need for the earth to exist. It serves no function. So again, all you have is the delusion in your head. Fuck, why even bother with that shit? Even if it's a 200-foot tidal wave, I'm probably going to say, hey man, I'm going to board up. Because I'm going to ride this fucker, okay? I'm going to ride it till I'm dead. I'm going to force it to smush me, really. I'm not going to do this give-in shit. Fuck this give-in shit. I'm going to be in the game until I'm out of the game.
There's a game to be played even when you're going out the back door. I mean, even when you're being shoved out the door, you can still do it with your pants on, so to speak. You can still do it with a little bit of style, okay? And singing my way ain't very stylish, in my opinion. I'd say let's ride the wave. So fuck you. This is always such a pile of, right in, even if I'm going to ride the wave, right into the Statue of Liberty's face. That's better than just standing there singing songs. Or whatever the fuck your plan is. I'm going to be absolutely just happy. I'm just going to have happy thoughts. Happy, 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 happy. What is it? This is just drivel.
I'm arguing that you people have eviscerated reality of its reality. You've eviscerated reality and turned it into a fable, into a kiddie story, into a black and white, cheap, smiley face rendition of the truth. You have grotesquely distorted and perverted reality to acquire your positive attitude. And that is wholly inappropriate. And you're going to lecture me? Where's your counter argument? Again, point out to me where the reality of this smiley face is. Show me its origins. Show me the factual evidence that indicates reason for smiley face. Show me something in the basic function of nature to demonstrate that we are not basically bugs with brains.
We've had the whole conversation. I mean, I acknowledge the fact that our brain creates a theater to create consciousness, that the whole thing is a manifestation of its function, and that it creates this in a space we can't see, a non-tangible and non-material space of associations. Maybe the same space in which the relationship between radiuses and circumferences exist in. Maybe the same space that mathematical theories exist in. It's a space we can't access. It's it's not a place we can go to and say, I can see the consciousnesses. It's like a transparent hologram. The hologram would be a material thing, correct? I mean, it would be a synthetic, a creation in a way, but I mean, it still would have a materialness to it. But what if I made it transparent? It still theoretically exists, but now maybe I can't detect it because it's now integrated so deeply into...
There's no will, there's strategies, there's an understanding, there's an idea. These are the things that we have. Will is just an expression of those things. You either have ideas or you don't have ideas. It's not like you have will or you don't have will. No. Or about power, will. You either have ideas, you have strategies, you have ways of behaving that are different or new or innovative or all of this crap, or you don't. And you acquire those through interaction, acquiring bits and pieces of the truth, and then you put the bits and pieces together. Just like a scientist a few hundred years ago might find correlations between, patterns in something and say, oh, I see a pattern here. Yes, all these radiuses, always are divisible by these circumferences and come up with the same ratio. The premises I need, anyway, the concessions I need, which are that we are conscious, our consciousness is in states of being that are either perceived to be worth re-experiencing or not. I think that's a good way to put it, re-experiencing. Experiencing again, having more of, that kind of thing. And if we take out cause and just judge the experiences, it makes it a lot easier to judge, to balance these experiences, put them on a scale that's fair. And some of that will seem very unfair, I suppose. Just because some experiences are a lot less bad than they could have been, if they were traditional or typical. I mean, theoretically, you can get run over by a car, fall into a coma, wake up a week later, and feel okay. And so getting hit by a car was really just being asleep for a week, which...
To existence. There is the quanta, the things, the bits moving at the speed of light all over the place. That's all they are. That's all let's say that's all the universe is. Little dominoes flipping. Flip, 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 flip. They're just flipping all over the fucking place. And that's constituent one, is the dominoes, the bits of quanta flying at the speed of light. The only thing in the universe. That's what I believe. If you break it all down, that's all you'll find, is photons, so to speak. That's it. Nothing else. So it's all made out of. That's the E equals mc squared. It's all photons. It's the c squared that's the speed of light squared. Huge number of little tiny bits in every little atom. Yeah. So that's what the universe is made out of. This is the physical thing. And the only other thing there is the arrangement of the dominoes. And it's just, I can't find any purpose in saying the arrangement is irrelevant, because it is not chaotic arrangement. The arrangement falls into the specific patterns. This is where our sense organs are all collected. They all flow into our consciousness. All our senses, the physical senses, the biological senses. And then we have the sensations that our body, as an after product, a sixth sense, throws into our consciousness. So we have sensations and memory, thought, vague visions inside our head. Visions inside our head. We even hear people inside our head. So we can hear voices, and we can see things, and we can feel things. So there's even 3 extra senses. But let's just say they're the sixth sense of what our brain produces and throws into our sensual experience. And this is called that our sensual state of being, moment to moment. We're being flooded with sense data. Our focus decides which sense data has priority or is occupying our consciousness. And our brain is producing its own versions of sensation and throwing them in here.
Before, this idea that this rational capacity to categorize is really, really, really important. And that's what we should be doing. We should be quit doing the it doesn't look like a tarantula thing and do the of course it's a tarantula. Look at it. It's fucking Republican all over the place. Yes, it looks like a clean black man, but no, it's really Dick Cheney in a funny Obama suit. Fuck. Don't be fooled. So anyway, let's go back to this focus thing and the emphasis in your life and the mission statements even. So here's a good word. I seem very focused, very obsessed with defining my function as being something to do with how I change this environment in the future, how I interfere with the 200-foot wave I see coming, and way too little importance on the social cost and all that kind of crap. So, I might compare it to people defending Lamborghinis or something, or mansion houses or yachts. That's just silly to defend that shit. The world can function just fine without any of that crap. It's a tiny minority of the human race that needs that crap, or can even derive any pleasure from it. And it just creates a bunch of waste labor that could be diverted to some productive cause for which we would all benefit. And, these are all simple things, but yeah, it's even like when you have to get into economics, how hard it is to get people to understand these simple dynamics in economics. And here I'm talking about the biggest economics there is, the real economics of value exchanges. And people don't understand the simple economics, that there is such a thing as wasted work. There is. And when it's wasted, it's important. It's not unimportant, it's very important.